like being on a team and being an individual. Being an individual, you control everything. You know, someone says, "I need you to make unicorns," and you're like, you know, what'd be cooler though is like buff dudes with guns. You know, people say write it on your mirror. You could do that, but I share a mirror with my wife, so I should probably be a little bit.
Something tells me you have different goals.
So. Yeah. Dragon Hunter. What?
So in this video, I'm going to be chatting with one of my biggest inspirations in the 3D industry, Jay Hill. He's currently a lead character artist over at Total Rock Studios and has worked on titles such as Back 4 Blood, Titanfall, and Apex Legends. We go through everything from his most recent projects to how he got into the industry, where he thinks the industry is heading, and his most anticipated course, which he's going to be launching very soon. Timestamps are in the description. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. But other than that, enjoy. But yeah, just as like starting off, like the Demon Hunter project that you just finished, like I moved houses 3 times from my first memory of when you started it to when you'd actually finished it.
Yeah. Wow. That's super cool. You're one of the few people that like saw or was aware that I was working on it in the background, you know?
Yeah. I remember the you were doing a vial. You started doing the vial thing for it, or the orb thing. And I remember it was like 3 houses ago. So yeah, do you have any like takeaways from it afterwards?
I mean, probably quite a few. I mean, like when I did that, I started with a blood potion, I remember.
That's it.
Like a bottle.
Yeah.
And at that time, to like kind of show stuff for members and feel good about like, I wanted to complete something, you know, like kind of chip away and like make tiny projects out of it. Cause I knew it was going to be a marathon. And so that vial or that like potion blood bottle was done with ZBrush and key shots. And so that's one of the things that changed is essentially I replaced Keyshot with Blender.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm gonna use Keyshot again. And I think also I suspect Maxon's acquisition of ZBrush, and they own Redshift and they began the integration. Eventually I think Redshift will replace Keyshot. Right now it's not capable of that. But yeah, so that's one of the things. One of the biggest takeaways is Blender and how I could use it in my workflow, and there's a lot of interesting things for me. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to use Keyshot again. That's kind of a big workflow change. And then also this is one of the kind of a new area for me is sticking my neck out more in the character design realm and trying to learn a bit about that, and also trying to learn how I like to do things and express and solve problems like that, which are new problems. So it's kind of a new facet of it, which is fun. But yeah, the main takeaway in terms of character design for me is, I think I may have even mentioned in the video, was just I generally like tell myself and tell others that this thing for like choosing a project to avoid overthinking it and kind of being paralyzed, like decision paralysis. Have you heard of that? The like phenomenon of not being able to choose of something on Netflix, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I try to like almost like catch that feeling and just jump in and like without thinking, for that, because I know it's going to be, at this point I know it's going to be this commitment, and I know I want to go the distance, so I kind of make a quick decision when I'm choosing other concepts and designs. I almost like think in the beginning it's a whim and then it's a commitment. So when I'm perusing, like I save a bunch of concepts that I like. Sometimes when I usually, now I've got a list of projects like on deck, which have an attachment, like I've already linked it to like concepts. But imagine like I don't know what I'm gonna do, I just peruse and I just wait for like a feeling to hit me and I go, yeah, that'd be cool, and I just go for it. So with this design I did that, but the difference being, like, usually I have a very, very strong foundation that I'm going off of. And in this case, yeah, I started the project fast and I got in there quick, which was the point. But it was kind of cart before the horse with design. Like, I didn't really give enough respect to the actual, like, high level design process anyways. I kind of jumped into like sculpting and following that stuff, and it was this kind of more convoluted process than normal, where I went pretty far in making a high poly model that just didn't feel right. And it wasn't until I completely shifted just even like the goals or the rules, and it felt like a completely different character, but that got me excited again, and I definitely had a vision, and more confident that I could get there. So anyways, long story short, I think workflow things and lots of little things you always learn on the project.
Yeah.
So yeah, workflow things I want to take on board for the long haul, and an important lesson I think in character design, and like the kind of prep you can do and the kind of things you can do, like fail faster, get there faster, so that always where I want to be is where I eventually got, where you can just have headphones on and make progress every night. That's what I wanted to do. But the design itself, I think you got to be more clear than just diving right in and sketching, hoping for the best.
Yeah. I mean, that was some good advice that you gave me when I was doing a similar thing. And I mean, you learn it on the job, right? You kind of like getting through it. You're like, why doesn't this look good? I'm doing the same thing as before. And then you're like, oh, that's right. The buck stops with you, sort of thing. Like, I designed this, so any little thing that you're changing in it is up to your decision, even like the goods and the bads of it. But yeah, no, it came out awesome, dude. I really, really liked it.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. And the Gal Gadot project that you did. So I messaged you about this, being like, dude, how did you do this? How did you do this and this at the same time? Like juggling these two massive projects. But yeah, how did that come about, considering your work obviously is predominantly game art stuff, and it's cool to see the high-res stuff actually come into, getting some commercial work for it. It's really awesome. How did it come about?
I think honestly, there's that girl that you've seen probably, because I did a lot of member videos on my channel, and then I did several YouTube videos using her. So that was an initial commission. I think probably, honestly, I think the cyberpunk girl doing the snarl got me a lot of attention, and that was just a CG high-res thing, and so I think it transcended the obviously game art. It wasn't game art, it was kind of fan art of a game.
Yep.
But yeah, people that didn't know anything about its origins liked it for whatever reason. So anyways, I think that got me on some people's radars, that usually for this commercial work, when I get in contact with these people, they don't really understand, like, they just see the image online and they're like, we want this for our brand or our ad. You seem like you know how to do that. Can we just pay you and you do it?
Yeah.
And so oftentimes I'm at the point now where this is not a brag thing. I have to say no to a lot of things. I think that's the right thing to do. Almost all the time, if I say yes, I like regret it. And I'm like, why did I do that? Because at night when I'm free just like this, I'd rather be talking, someone like you, having fun or doing my own projects. And I don't need to take on everything. So why do it? In this particular case, they hit me up, and they said in the initial emails, it was like, it's going to be a Netflix project, some actresses you probably know. And I was like, okay, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then, so anyways, I just thought it lined up where I was like, hey, I just have bandwidth to do the head. How about that? And then I can work with someone to do the body. I know who can do the body. And then they were like, it's just going to be one. It's just going to be Gal Gadot. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Because I just thought I'd like to have that in my portfolio anyways. So, it's like you can pay me to do this. That's cool. So that's why I took it on. And then, honestly, dude, I did a lot of cheating. I did it pretty fast for that kind of thing. First, they did give me a scan, which I did think, again, they told me that in email. They're like, we have an initial scan that you can start with, and then we want you to do your thing where it looks a little bit not real. And I was like, perfect. I love that. Hell yeah. Because I also don't like real true likenesses. Personally, I don't enjoy doing that. It is very much more scientific, very analytical. It's about accuracy. And so to me, that I don't find joy in that. I like to just kind of go off feeling and like, ooh, whatever. So I like to do that. Put a little bit of a thing on it, and it just makes it looser, less rigid, and just a lot more wiggle room. So that's the other reason why I took on the job. So they gave me the scan, and I was surprised at how, like, it got me somewhere, but it really didn't get me as much as I thought. I ended up changing it a lot. I mean, it must have helped in some way. It was great to have a reference though, because you could turn it and see the difference between my mesh and the scan was a lot. And like those photos of her on the stage and the scan of her, it didn't even look like her. It did, but you know what I mean? Like there's just the idea that you see her in images and posters and stuff, and that's what I wanted to make. So so that's what I did. So I kind of started with that, and then honestly, the most time I spent on it, all the way through. When I do those kind of things, I try to get to the render scene ASAP. So I just have a ton of I have 60 work in progress images that just keep changing little by little. So even while I'm doing the texture, I'm just always tweaking stuff. So that was predominantly the most time. But it was my base mesh. So then I wrapped it, and then I sculpted the main stuff. Then I mixed together the detail from one of the other things that I had done, mixed together with the sculpt I did to get to not have to redo tiny details. So I was just trying to get there as soon as possible. And the hair obviously took a lot because you can't really cheat that. And yeah, even the textures I cobbled together stuff, so I'm not starting from scratch. So yeah, that's how I did it in a shorter amount of time. I don't know exactly how long it took overall, but because I'm using my own assets, it took shorter, and yeah, it was. Then I spent a lot of time at the end for the portfolio post. I posed her and stuff, so I probably spent a couple weeks. It was done, and then months went by. My job with them was done, and then they have to make the intro, and then the thing has to come out on Netflix and everything. So it was months went by, and then when it was hey guys, it's coming out, you guys can share your work, and I was oh, it'd be cool to pose it. So I spent a week or two these nights just having fun posing it and lighting it and stuff. So that was fun.
One of the biggest takeaways in the last year from you and from being in the members and all that kind of stuff as well is the organizational stuff with Notion. And I never even knew Notion existed until you told me about it, that it existed, and I was oh, cool. Yeah. And then went down the rabbit hole of Notion, and it's a
big rabbit hole, dude. It's endless.
Yeah. So yeah, is there anything else, any other types of programs that you have or that you think that are like that, where it's oh man, no one knows about this and you got to be using it?
Not I think Notion is really great. As we say, you can go so deep on there.
Yeah.
And it's customized to you. I'll also say, just to address the larger point, I do have kind of thoughts on it. With the two projects we mentioned right now, one I started years ago, like you say, and then the other one I did over months, and then I'm done, and then I'm doing something else, and then I finished the Dragon Hunter thing. So it was slow. The Dragon Hunter project is quote unquote slow. And then when I got the green light to post, they end up getting posted the same week or 2 weeks apart. So that's what I mean. It looks like I'm fast, but I'm not. That's just how it came down. And then with Notion, I'll also say I'm aware of my own kind of predilection to over plan. And you can over plan to the point of it being detrimental. It feels good, it's safe, and you're stalling. It's like another form of procrastination. So I do think it helps me though, for sure. So I always do it, but I'm aware of that. Sometimes I have to force myself to jump in. But I kind of take this scattered approach where I actually even have these silly sticky notes on here. It's stupid, dude. I have a to-do list. I use Mac for my main daily driver, so it's called Things.
Yep.
And so it's just it's called GTD is a system called Get Things Done. There's a book on it. Yep. So it's just a mindset on how to organize to do things. So I have that, which has a ton of stuff in it. And then every day things come up and I'm trying to check things off, and I end up not checking them all off, and I push them. So I'm messy, and I'm aware that I'm messy, but I also want to be productive. So I feel I'm not naturally, and I'm kind of dragging myself along by overdoing it. I plan stuff, I write things down, I write myself, if I do something, I try to capture it so that when I go back to it, I can reference my own notes. I'm not wasting time figuring things out. Like I said, I've even got stupid sticky notes now for the important things. I have a whiteboard right here where I wrote the 3 most important things to get done, and one of them was the Dragon Hunter, so I did cross one off finally.
Yeah.
But I have a multi-pronged attack approach where it's just I'm trying to get myself to make progress on the things I care about So I've got multiple places where I wrote it down. I even went a little bit with writing in an actual physical journal.
Yeah.
And I wrote down goals in there, and I tracked that every day for a little bit. I would have liked to make that a habit that stuck. So maybe I'll try it again now that my second daughter's a little bit older. It was nice actually, like writing a little paragraph at the end of each day, because like even a week goes by and you read it back and you're like, whoa, and you get taken back there. So it is a cool thing to do. But yeah, I would write down my yearly goals there too. So anyways, long story short, I think everyone has access to the tools they need. And I think there's like a spectrum of being able to utilize them. I consider myself someone who's just naturally not that organized, pretty messy, pretty scatterbrained. And I just try to get things out of my brain and down quick. If you read any book on that stuff, the GTD system or productivity or anything, there's a book called The One Thing. There's a book called Eat That Frog. Really, like, always a principle is like, if something's cool, if something's good, get it out of your brain, get it down somewhere and capture it. Another great thing is there's a YouTuber named Ali Abdal, makes a lot of really cool videos, and a lot of them have to do with productivity. And he seems way more organized than me. I assume he is. He's got that minimal clean vibe, right?
Yeah.
And he said that he's got a lot of stuff going on, and he said he just utilizes the search function. And I think that comes from Tiago Forte's recommendation, who wrote a book on this too. Anyways, so rather than like having everything in the right shelf, you could use Notion, you can use Apple Notes, you can use Evernote, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can just like let it be a messy drawer and then go in there and search, you know, because computers, dude. So yeah, that's awesome. So I do that a lot. Like I end up just saying, you know what, it's more important to just quickly write stuff, and then I'll open my own notes and I go, what was that thing about Unreal Meta Human? Oh yeah, you know, and I just search for random words. So it's like my own, after a while, it's like your own Google.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome, man. Even the whiteboard, I feel like, is a good rec. Like, that is getting stuff down in general. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like, that's the best app you can have.
Yeah, and so I have this like little weird part of my door wall that's just it's unused, right?
Yeah.
And I had that idea on Amazon. I looked for a skinny, long whiteboard, and I found one. And so I just put it there, and I wrote down the 3 important things. So every time I come into my room, I see the 3 things that I want to finish, like the big projects that I care most about. And that helps. You know, people say write it on your mirror. You could do that, but I share a mirror with my wife, so she'd probably be a little annoyed with that.
Something tells me you have different goals.
So. Yeah. She's like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
Dragon Hunter. What are you talking about?
Yeah. White Moon Dreams was the first gig that you had.
Yeah, what a funny name for a studio.
Yeah. Polycount? You got the job through Polycount?
Yeah.
Was that right? Was that the website? That takes me back as well, dude. But
yeah,
the forum-based job situation at the moment, I'm guessing, is pretty much dead in the water, right?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, because I haven't looked like that back in the day. People still have the same problem, which is like, nowadays, you know, I'm in the industry, and I've been in there. I've got shipped games under my belt. I have a portfolio.
Sure.
And nowadays, recruiters will also like look on LinkedIn and search, or they'll look on ArtStation, and so you'll get like cold messages, or word of mouth. Like, you know, people in the industry, and they're like, "Hey, dude, this project's looking for a character artist." So it gets to be a little different after you're like 10, 15 years in. But there's the same issue of, hey, what if someone is really passionate and skilled now, but they don't have a shipped game? How do they get in? And I get that question a lot, and I wish I had a clear answer. I think similarly, like you mentioned forums, I think similarly to the fact that communities are broken up now, it's like micro versions. I think probably the same with job boards, you know? So I think it's probably like, I don't know if Upwork or anything would do it, but I think LinkedIn has jobs, ArtStation has jobs. There might be some other ones. I know there was email lists when I was looking. This is years ago though, but there was an email list to subscribe to, which I did, and that had jobs where you would get emailed, and like some of them would be like, you know, animator at Netflix or whatever. You know, it was a big list of them for whatever industry you're interested in, and companies paid to be on there. But essentially, you want to go to the places where companies pay to be on there. Polycount was free, but I think just because of the benefit of like it had good moderation, and it was the place for our community, you know, at that time.
Yeah.
And right now there's just like a million Discord servers. And I assume Facebook stuff. I don't know if people are on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but maybe, I don't know. It's just all over the place now. So I still would recommend like official stuff. Like Polycount was as official as it could be back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nowadays it's not like that. So I would just try to check out job boards where companies have to pay.
Yeah. No, that's a good tip, man. I didn't even think of thinking of the back end like that, like where people can just throw stuff on and jump on. And, you know, we're looking for a guy for our app to do this thing. And it's like, well, you don't know how legit it is, but it somewhat legitimizes it, I guess, if they're paying to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you have to pay for every job posting on ArtStation. I'm pretty unfamiliar with that. But like that, to me, ArtStation replaced Polycount.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for the most part, for like the place that the entire community is aware of and goes to like at least once a week. Yeah. That's definitely like the website.
Your earlier videos on YouTube, like I think we might have even spoken about it ages ago. Like when you started doing it, for me, getting back into character art, I was like, let's go back onto YouTube. Like that's going to be the first place that I'm going to be looking. And you were kind of the guy, like early days, you know, Jay Hill. Oh, this is tutorials. You know, this is the kind of dude that's doing the stuff I want to be doing. Was teaching always something that you wanted to do? I know that you said that your parents are teachers and you're kind of surrounded by teachers. But is it something that you kind of fell into while on the YouTube journey, or was it like, that's an itch I want to scratch?
I would say at least that, yeah, growing up, my parents were both teachers and they were both respected teachers. I had reverence for it, and I always thought it was a possibility. And I also saw it as a kind of milestone, you know, that to become a teacher of a thing, you're like an expert at that thing.
Yeah.
So I definitely thought of it as being in the future. That's something now that I'm taking more seriously. But at that time, when I was getting onto YouTube, I didn't consider myself a teacher. I definitely wanted to share information. It was in the spirit of like sharing information with people that are like me, that are interested in this stuff. You know, the simple thing was like, I want to make stuff that I would have liked to watch, you know, a little bit ago in my own thing. And that's really how it started. And it's funny, man, because like you mentioned tutorials and stuff. I didn't like really make a tutorial. I'd say the eyeball thing was my first tutorial. And there's only a few I've made. I even like kind of put tutorial on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And I want to do those right. Like to me, a tutorial is like when you load it up, you pull it up. If you go through it, you'll have something at the end. Like it, you know, there's a thing. It's like a recipe that you'll have the dish at the end.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even use the word tutorial for years. I only used it a few times. So I get a lot of comments on there. This is the worst tutorial ever, and stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I never said this was a tutorial. But people go on YouTube, you know, like you, dude. So I've been trying to like shift more into that too, and say like, what can I teach? How can I share useful? How can I give people value? So I feel like the YouTube thing has grown and shifted and changed as my own interests change and as my audience, which is a weird thing to say. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but you know, people that come to me like to watch my videos and are interested in this. I think like, what can I do in a video what can I share in a video that they would get something out of? Cause it is a weird format. I love YouTube. You know, I'm a consumer. I'm like a junkie with YouTube. So
yeah,
it was a natural fit for me too. Like I want to do my own projects. I've always liked to make videos. And I wanted to get better at teaching. So to me, YouTube it's all the things I'm interested in.
Probably a good segue into my other question of working in the industry and having an outlet for creativity, which is obviously, you know, teaching in YouTube and building your brand and your personal projects. Something that I've personally struggled with, and that I actually talk a lot with the guys that I work with as well, is struggling to have the creative, feeling like a cog in the machine sort of thing when you're at work, as opposed to having a creative outlet at work because you are doing something that somebody else is hiring you to do.
Absolutely.
So I'm guessing that YouTube and, you know, doing your personal projects and stuff is your way of staying creative while being
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it, yeah, I think it's been crucial in my whole like life balance and everything. It makes it easier for me to do a good job at work, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's just a clear delineation, you know, like when I'm at work, my job is different than when I do whatever I want at home.
Yep.
And it really did help. So I recommend it to everyone. I know everyone has their own personal like relationship with personal work. There's like baggage there and all that, and that's one of the main things I hope to make a dent on with the stuff I do with YouTube. Like I want to encourage people to do things for fun, you know, to take on projects, to try stuff and try to have the joy of just doing stuff for fun and kind of lead by example and give people some useful tips to do that. I think it's just good for you in general. And so it's been good for me for my work too. As I say, like it's just really clear. Like I'm, you know, another way to think of it that people sometimes don't, especially artists, is really being an artist at a studio or a contractor. It's like a service industry, you know, if the better you get, I think is related to how good you are at the service, you know, like someone's hiring you to fulfill their vision. And so if you take on that mindset of like making it like a premium experience for them to like, you know, work with them, give them options, over deliver, you know, really like knock it out of the park from their point of view, then your career will go much better. It'll be a happier relationship. You know, you could stay at that place. They'll recommend you, whatever. Rather than the misconception of I'm an artist, I create, and you try to like square peg in a round hole, you know. Someone says I need you to make unicorns, and you're like, you know what would be cooler though is like buff dudes with guns, you know. And it just doesn't work out and you just end up making like gritty dirty unicorns, and they're like, what are you doing, dude? And it's like, shit. So then at home at night you make, you know, sweaty gritty dudes, and you feel good about it, and you can do whatever you want, you know what I mean? And so I think it's important though for creative people in general, honestly, you know, I think everyone's naturally just a creative person. So like the stuff with making videos, the stuff with doing the personal work, as you mentioned with the Dragon Hunter concept, I can just say like, you know, be cool is put an earring right there, boom, and that's a whole like loop that feels good. That's a satisfying thing. An idea comes in there, and then you get to make a decision, you do it, and you live with it, and that's a whole thing that you don't get a lot of times in a professional setting, which is okay. But if you don't have an outlet for that, I think the mistake that people make is attaching things like personal satisfaction and their own goals to a job, you know, like the success of their job or their self-expression is tied to a job. And that can be unhealthy, I think, or at least it can lead to like negativity and even depression. I was in a rough spot early on. My whole like identity and everything was kind of tied up in my early jobs. And the thing is you cannot control things. So it'll inevitably lead to disappointment. So there's really just fundamentally a difference between working on a project with a team collaboratively, like being on a team, and being an individual. Being an individual, you control everything. And so that's where I get that feeling. And people, it's important to have that. When you're on a team, it's not about control. You control the things you can, but then it's about collaboration and compromise, communication, supporting, professionalism, a lot of things that are outside of, you know, someone just trying to make cool art, which is how we all get started. You know, we just want to make cool art. But then once the career starts on, if you want to be a studio person, but I think these things help even if you're a contractor, it would lead to more work if you're known as like a professional who over delivers on time and really helps to bring someone else's vision to life. You know, again, like it's like the service you provide.
Yeah. And seeing that, if you want to hire somebody, you are looking at the things that they do, and you're like, hey, look at all the stuff that they do in their personal time. Look how much effort they're putting into this thing that they're not even getting paid to do. Like this, I'm guessing that goes like, you know, how else are you supposed to fill out your portfolio and do things like that if it's not?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, yeah, it's something that is important to continue to build your portfolio, and that is one where like I think the mindset of staying creative, taking on personal projects, following your interests, learning, growing on your own time. I think that again, super healthy to do, and it can be rewarding in its own way. Almost like maybe this is like cringe to compare it to like exercise, but definitely people can preach a lot, right, about exercise. That they do it now. And they're like, my whole life's better. It's like a lifelong practice that you take on. That's kind of how I see the just personal creative projects. I think I just want to continue doing that because it brings benefits, that are more than on their own. But it's also a means to an end, as you say. Like it builds a portfolio, and that has ended up getting me more work. So it's kind of a exponential, like it's like a cycle that just feeds itself. So I definitely think if you're someone who, wants to move around, it's one of the, again, back to control. It's one of the few things you control in your career, as an artist, is what are you doing in your portfolio? Because if you just put in your portfolio stuff you're being paid to make, then essentially the people that are paying you are designing your portfolio.
Yeah.
And that's probably not what you want. So if you're making something like, if you're making a game with a lot of realistic characters, and while you're doing that, you think to yourself, man, I'd love to do something stylized. You got to put stylized stuff in your portfolio.
Yeah.
So now that's on you. But that's exactly the impetus that I think, oh, great. If I ever feel that, I go, sweet. And then in my free time, I can watch videos about stylization. I can watch movies. I can look at other people's work. I can do studies. I can do all kinds of stuff, and it feels fun because I'm learning this new thing, and it's not at all what I'm doing at work. So I don't feel like drained. It's a completely different thing. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't know. I'm rambling, but
dude, you referred to one of the best things like I always remember about the portfolio is you used to refer to it as the storefront, and like you are like, people are going shopping and they're like, we want that. We don't want to think maybe this person might be, if we give them a chance, that person. That resonated with me so hard, man, because I mean, I feel like a lot of people have probably been in that position where they're like, maybe, like my stuff's kind of good, and like maybe they might one day, like it's fairyland, man. Like it's not a reality. Like you gotta,
I'm glad that resonated. And I mean, I know all those feelings because I was that same way. It's probably just human nature.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. It's like kind of brutal. You got to be kind of brutal about it. And really what you're shooting for is in that storefront, you have things where it's just undeniable. Yeah. That's really what you're after. It's not borderline. It's like they have to contact you. So I think it's good to just set the bar like that. Okay, so another thing is, I think for artists, like for me, I'll just speak for myself, okay?
Yeah.
I feel the most like joy and personal satisfaction when I feel like I'm doing things more autonomously, doing things more unique, and being able to like, it might just come down to self-expression, whatever you want to call it. But to put an example on it, if I were given a job and they're like, hey, we want these characters for our game, but we're not exactly sure what we want them to look like. Somewhere in between these games, not realistic, but, still personality. Now it's like, hell yeah, dude. Like, let's go. That's what I want to do. Give me this thing and I get to figure it out. I get to put my stamp on it. So I get this pride of ownership. Yeah. And I get this like involvement, right? That I'm affecting the style. There's a piece of me now in there, so I get satisfaction similar to when I'm making personal work. So to me, to get paid to do that is something that is high on my list, right? That's something that gets me excited, and that's what I'm striving for. Now, if you are, say your portfolio is just things you've been paid to do. Okay. For example, you have no personal work in there. So your style, your brand, your storefront is all things that exist already. It's all things that people told you what to do. It's all things that you followed a concept from, right? Yep. So now that is that is your brand. That is what people are going to pay you to do. And you might feel, right, as years go by, you're like, man, this is like derivative, dude. I'm doing the same things. Because think about what your storefront is. It's like, we want it, like, this guy makes things like that. Hire him, right? So the more examples I have in there that are just things I liked to make, eventually it started to be conversations where people were like, hey, we like this example and we want to do something like that. And I'm like, sick, dude. I just made that up. You know?
Yeah.
I would love to do that again because that's my own thing. You know what I mean? So that's another, like, I think great reason. So if you're interested at all in carving out, you know, something where you get to be more creative and you get to affect the way something looks, you have to make those examples of like, I can do that. Or examples where instead of people pointing to like, hey, we want to do something like Last of Us. We want to do something like Call of Duty, you know? That happens a lot in the industry. You know, this thing worked. We want to copy that. And as a creative person, you feel like, sometimes you feel like, dude, they already did that, you know?
Yeah.
And you kind of dream, at least for me, I dream of like being on the team that did the thing that when it came out, everyone was like, shit, we should copy that. I wanted to be on the first one, which is hard to catch, right? And so that comes down to like, you know, getting into places early and talking to people and having your own examples outside of paid work.
Yeah.
So things have to come together, but that's a rare opportunity. But those are the things that excite me the most, is to be able to be a part of something new and have like my own kind of stamp in collaboration with others, but to be able to like own something and affect the way something looks.
Yeah, I feel like you've been super lucky in that sense, man. Like, you know, Apex Legends, like, there's no way that studios aren't opening and being like, hey, battle royale game with original bunch of characters that's doing this. We want to make it Apex Legends style. Like, that is a reference now. Like, and I'm guessing that you were a part of it from the inception, which is pretty cool, man. And then not to mention like Back 4 Blood and all that other stuff as well.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I was really super lucky. Apex was probably my luckiest thing, for sure. Everything aligned there for a sec, and I wasn't there for that long. I think I was at Respawn for 2 years, and I shipped 2 games.
Wow.
Well, I shipped 1 game at the end,
Yeah.
and then I was on Apex at the beginning, and then I left. They shipped like a year or so after I left.
Yeah.
But I got, I get on the CV, I get 2 shipped titles, and then 2 of my characters become popular, and it was insane. And that was a really cool, trippy feeling, and a strange experience, but at the same time fulfilled like the lifelong dream of making game characters that people loved, and they were like, it was a broadly appealing, popular game. So
Absolutely.
That's what you want, and that was cool.
I listened to a podcast with you about 5 years ago.
Oh wow!
And it was from about 5 years ago. And you spoke about AI and what it's going to be in 5 years. I don't even know if you remember this.
I don't. I'd be curious what I said about it.
Dude, you nailed it. Like, you actually nailed... So 5 years ago, you had said, it's going to be this, and this, which is basically where we are today. And I was like, man, he nailed this. Like, he actually said all the things. For someone who didn't even know what AI was, I'm thinking like a Will Smith movie or some shit. Like,
yeah.
Like... You were practically saying like text to prompt stuff, and I was like, man, he's nailed it. So if crystal ball 5 years from now, what is going to be the holy shit, I can't believe we did things like that back then in the game dev?
Game dev. Ooh.
Hair cards, real time, something like that.
Man, there's just a lot of opportunity, but I don't know. I don't understand the tech yet enough about what could be applied. Also, I don't know the like setup time, I definitely think like unwrapping and topology. Unwrapping and topology are always the things that come to mind. We a lot of times in like professional studios, you'll outsource that stuff sometimes. If you outsource that stuff to some artists in other parts of the world, it's cheaper, and you can like, they work because of the time zones, they're working while you're asleep. So you can have like your very expensive, artists doing a high poly model, and then you pay outsourcers to do low poly and UVs. So that's obviously an opportunity for AI. Yeah. I don't see Autodesk doing it though. Autodesk is a dinosaur, dude. They can barely update their shit. So maybe Blender could probably do it. It's open source. People can add AI. Well, there's an Unreal plugin that got announced, or it came out recently, and there was a video and everything, and it's crazy where in the video they just open up the Matrix demo level, and then they open up their plugin and they like type in a time of day thing, or they put in an image from like a movie, and then it changes the sky, it changes the HDRI, it changes all this Unreal Engine stuff, and it relights the Matrix level and color grades it to look like the movie. And I was like, wow, that's already happening right now. Yeah. So that's super sick. I assume that's going to keep happening. There's definitely opportunity for AI in texturing. And I think Substance and Adobe's already doing AI. So there you go. So that's probably going to happen in texturing pretty soon. Like, probably generative fill is going to be in texturing soon. If you open something like cleaning up your edges, maybe, there's some like annoying stuff in Substance where you have to like paint masks. So maybe there's like a smart mask equivalent. So there's probably some assisted AI stuff there in texturing. And then what's super interesting too is I've even been using this called VizCom, and VizCom is a website app thing, and they're kind of in the industrial design niche.
Okay.
But it's really excited me. Like, you can feed it whatever. So there's some people that went to an industrial design school, and so they know how to do these super clean drawings of cars and shit. That's like what they've been doing. And then if you feed it, you could just type something, and it'll come up with something out there that looks amazing. But you can feed it drawings, and it renders it, and it looks sick. And so I've been using it to like generate references and concepts for like, you do a concept sculpt of a helmet or a mech or a armor or whatever. Yeah. And then you feed, and like, so I can just do it in ZBrush and then do a little lighting thing so that the thing can see what the shape is. But just spend like 30 minutes. I can do a bunch of them and then put it in this thing, and then it renders it. And it's like, bam, it looks like a fucking render. And you're like, holy shit. And then from there you can tweak stuff, and then it gives you more ideas. And so right now I'm super excited. This is at the beginning of the process, not the end, but it really excited me. Like, for a while when I first like was getting into it, every night I was like, let's do more, and like, let's tweak this. And then essentially you get this super clean concept, after going through all these iterations too, for free, right? Cheap and easy to just like all these iterations. And then now that you have a clean concept, you go back and then you make a clean model. And so you've essentially like created your own reference to make a model. And I just thought that's so cool. So that idea of like, that's a big delta, but I think even like these little things at the end, little like pop where it can fix stuff, or like we see with video, like fixing eye orientation. So there's probably just going to be some easily accessible things that help things look finished. So I think that's going to happen. Another thing too is we can think of it, if it gets better and better, things like Lumen, which is an Unreal Engine lighting solution, which is meant to fake global illumination. That's the light that bounces around, which is hard to calculate. So typically that's always been done in ray trace renders because they're really tracing it. So Lumen is this clever solution, but it's got pros and cons. But anyways, long story short, I just think in real-time rendering, the same thing what AI is doing in all the other spaces is it's smartly guessing to get you to the end, right? It's skipping a bunch of steps. It's just like, here's a bunch of data, and it's like, okay, what if we just jump to the end of the line? What about like this? And you're like, that's like 90% pretty good. That's what AI is doing. Yeah. So I think you can leverage that for real-time rendering, to make things look like, holy shit, this is real time. But there's a lot of like, we know what things should look like. So instead of calculating it, here's our best guess. And you're like, damn, that looks real. That's probably going to be happening. So like AI assisted real-time rendering is probably another thing, rather than just like everyone has to have 24090s. It's like, well, how about they can have 3080 Ti's, but like this smart AI thing is a filter on top that just makes the final image look sick, because they're already doing that with denoising. So I can see that going farther.
Yep. So you're working on a base AI. It's just like the Band-Aid that you put over the top that just makes it.
Yeah.
Makes it sexy.
But like because think about what they're doing with the denoising. I mean, honestly, it is a little disheartening sometimes, because Yeah, because it's like you could think it's sad because of when you realize like how much the AI is doing, but I definitely like the idea of it assisting lighting. The noisiness, we're already doing that. But like making the image look more photorealistic, I'd be fine with that. Like a filter on top. Even like, I think they're using AI a bit on like the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And that's a movie, so I can see that stuff again getting faster, going to a game to do things that are just a step farther than we can do right now manually. Is to you can kind of think of them as filters, I guess. Definitely like the top layer.
Yeah.
At the end. Yeah. UVs and topology would be great. To me, the only problem with that one is the investment it takes for the people that can do that to do that.
Yeah.
And right now, I think the best case, or like the most likely scenario, is that people make plugins for Blender that do that.
Have you actually thought of doing, like, I know that you're doing like all the teaching stuff, and I don't want to harp on too much about the course, because I know that every time I see in the comments of things, everyone's like, when's the course coming out?
That's fine, dude.
Which obviously is a great thing to have for you, like, so many people that are so interested and obviously love what you do. Have you ever thought of going big picture, like starting your own studio, but like creating your own IP of some kind?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. That's kind of what I dream about, and I always have some dream. I mentioned the 3 things I wrote down. One of them is the course, still not crossed off.
Yeah.
Dragon Hunter, crossed off. And then the third one is an original IP. Essentially, like, I've kind of mapped out what I think is a reasonable path to get there. So I need to start out smaller by doing like little animated shorts. So that's what I want to do. That I see that as the next step in, like we talked about with the Dragon Hunter. Like I would make character models. Dragon Hunter, Flex are, what if I, can I just make one up and then make it? Okay. And then can we bring that to life though? Okay. Then can we make a story though? And so it just keeps going to essentially fulfill that impetus of like the magic when I was a kid of seeing like digital characters that seem to be alive, and that just magic that happens, and that's always what I've wanted to make. So it's like all related, back to what I said about working on collaboratively with a team. That was the most exciting thing, still is exciting, but earlier it was the only way to bring characters to life. So like when I was getting jobs, it was like, hell yeah. When I'd meet an animator, I'm like, oh shit, dude, you animate characters? Fuck yeah. And then when it was in a game and I see my character model like doing this and moving around and shooting guns, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, there it is.
Yeah.
Because like for the first 8 years of me making character models, none of them move around, dude. They're all like this.
Yeah.
So even now in my portfolios, even though I'm not animating them, I try to bring them to life. And so I just see that as an extension. Like, how can we really get there? And so Unreal Engine and the new MetaHuman animator, the fact that you can buy motion capture suits that aren't exactly motion capture, but they're like centrifugal motion or whatever it's called.
Yep.
That stuff that you can get at home, so exciting, dude. I think about that all the time. And if you're familiar with Punisher's channel, where he does those big challenges, and like all these insanely talented people, show up, and that VFX industry really, is like the big inspiration for me, where they've already know what's going on with all that, how they can like, they get a bunch of assets, but they animate them and make these epic shots and everything. And so I want to do that too. But since I can also model characters, I want to kind of create and model my own characters and do that kind of fun stuff with them. Yeah. So I dream about that when I'm like on a run. That's what I'm dreaming about.
Oh, like literally running? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I run and I just like daydream, it's usually about that kind of stuff.
No, awesome, man. Like if there's someone that I think that could do it, with all like the things that you've done and the experience that you've had, yeah, I'd look forward to that, man. That'd be awesome. I'm feeling very fulfilled in the art stuff and even like the little YouTube starting thing that I'm doing here. So yeah, just thanks, dude. Thanks so much for even like giving me the time now. And yeah,
man, happy. Yeah, thank you for saying that, and makes me super happy to hear that, man. It's like, I'm happy for you, and yeah, it's kind of the ultimate hope that I could help someone like you in some even small way to do that, to find their own way and get them back into it. And you know, the fact that my story is relatable and everything. I think that's great. That's the whole point of sharing it. And we have a small community. I think just sharing information in general is a good policy. So yeah, I'm happy for you, and happy to jump on here and chat, dude.
Sweet, dude. Well, yeah, looking forward to the course, just like everyone else.
Yeah, man. I know it should have been done already, man. I'm literally editing it right now, so it is making progress, and I'm happy with the plan. Again, I over-plan, and that's probably why it's taken so long. But right now, I'm kind of happy with the idea of it, which is to do a live cohort where like we open enrollment, and then everyone that wants to get in can do it, and then every week, you know, we do something like this where it's live and everyone's in here, and I can get to just talk about, this week is about fucking concepts, and here's the bullet points, let's talk about it. And then they get all the videos I made. So each week is like a real, like, you know, focus on the steps, and we all go through it together. Anyways, I'm excited about that idea of a format rather than just dropping videos and, you know, never seeing anybody again. So I do think I think it has a potential of being that class community vibe, holding people accountable, being able to answer questions directly, and really get people, like, essentially what I want to do is make the best course, you know, on this. Not a lot of people doing it, to be fair. It's not like I have a ton of competition, but I definitely want to make like the best course in terms of quality and information, and then be able to just guarantee, like, if you take this course, you're going to make the best character for your portfolio that you've made. You know? And I feel like we can do that if we just get it all on there and do it together. So I'm excited about it, but yeah, I feel bad. People ask about it, and I if I was on the other side, dude, I would have given up a long time ago. I've been talking about it for a long time. So right now the plan is to get it to open enrollment at the end of this year, so that we can start like fresh in the new year.
Cool.
That's the plan.
Good luck with it, man.
Cool. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. I'm sure we'll
yeah,
talk
dude,
again.
absolutely, man. Happy to do it. And yeah, feel free to message me anytime, you know. I'm always on Discord, and if you want to do this again down the road, happy to do it.
For sure. Thanks, brother.
All right, man. Have a good one, bro.
Yeah, you too.
Peace.
See ya.